It's me again. I'm back. I want to talk about something a little more taboo, as though everything else I've said hasn't been taboo so far, but I think there's something we should address. Light my candle. Do we still believe monogamy is natural? What does the church's stand? Let's put the church we'll put the church on the shelf for today. Is monogamy natural? Do we think that it was intended that we were only supposed to be with one person for the rest of our lives? And if that was the true intention, why is it that we have the ability to fall in love over and over and over again, even after you have divorce, right? Many of our ancestors, our parents, friends, colleagues, get married, and we attend these grand weddings, and they spend a lot of money, and we want to be in support of that. But then those marriages don't work out, and then they move on to fall in love all over again. If it's intended that we should only be with one person, why is it that we have the ability to love multiple people at the same time? I don't take a position on it either way at this point, right? In this part of the conversation, I just want to get the wheels turning. Like, aside from sexual health, aside from having assets and children and all of that other stuff, aside from all of that, what is the real value? What is the true value, the true intention? What is the big deal with being monogamous? Why does it matter so much? If I am married to you, and you and I have an understanding, and we agree that what is amongst our relationship, what happens in this relationship, is sacred, whether that is to bring people into the relationship or not, why does that matter to anyone else? Or have we been conditioned to believe, based upon our own insecurities and inability to be independent, to be an independent thinker, to be an independent lover, versus being codependent, where we feel like we must be stuck together like peanut butter and jelly, or like a Pop-Tart or whatever else? Is it because we have our own insecurities, and that's the reason we want to be monogamous? How is it that we choose monogamy when we know that people move on to have other lives with other people, and they began to live these fulfilled lives, much more fulfilled in a lot of cases than they were with their primary or the first partner? Is it a problem to have multiple lovers at one time? Or is it a problem to have multiple lovers when those lovers don't know about each other? Is that okay? I submit to you that In every one of our relationships that we've had, there has been some point by which we have failed the covenant of that relationship, whether it was a friendship, whether it was a marriage, even when you work for the companies you work for, right? Are we really loyal to these companies? Really? Especially when we continue to interview in other places, or the moment they're short on our check, we like, I'm out this joint. What is it about our relationships in general, just as humans, that has been so flawed over the years? We know for sure that monogamy is not the only way. We know for certain that monogamy wasn't the way of our grandparents, right? Especially when we hear the stories of, and I'm not speaking, let me clear this up. I'm not speaking directly about my grandparents, okay? Though and however, my grandmother went on to be married to a man that she, after my father's father, but she went on to be married to a man that was everything to her, and she never married again. If there is only one person designed for us, if there is 100% certainty that monogamy is the way, even when there's no love in the relationship anymore, when there is no spiritual connection in the relationship anymore, when there is no financial connection in the relationship, do we necessarily need to be called monogamous? Or are there other options? What are we teaching our kids about their choices as they go on into the world to become these people, right? Is it, there's only one way, you must be married to one person at a time, and you must only love one person at a time? Now, we know in this country, there are laws that are put in place that say we cannot be married to multiple people at the same time, though, you know, there are some additional laws in Utah and some of those areas that have been submitted, reviewed, and even put in place to kind of have some sort of concession, or whether it's a domestic partnership or whatever it may be called. But even as we look back into Bible times, before the Bible, there have always been relationships where there were multiple people included in those relationships, maritally, but also in instances where a woman was married to a husband. If that husband died, then that brother became the overseer, or her husband, right? Whether there was love or not. So is that to say that we should only be marrying the people we love, or should we be marrying the people that can take care of us for the length of our entire lives? And absent from God, who can decipher who will be with us for the end of times? I raise these questions because, as an unconventional person, as an unconventional lover, as an unconventional woman, as an unconventional Black woman, I have always done the thing that has made me feel whole, or made me feel was the right thing at the time. And in those situations, you always make mistakes. We don't get it right all the time. That's just life. That's life. But also, as our relationships progress, there is room for us to play around with the boundaries of what we deem as love and what we deem as suitable for our love lives. Whether that is monogamy, polyamory, polygyny, polygamy, and we'll break some of these terms down. But I've always kind of done what I wanted to do, and I don't think I've really needed the cosign of a lot of people for that. Maybe that's a problem for some. But most certainly, every time I have bet on myself, I've never lost. I've never lost. And I submit that that is something that we should encourage all of our children, our friends, our sisters, our brothers, especially black men, to bet on ourselves, whether that's in love or otherwise. I, for the better part of 5-6 years, was polyamorous. And what that means is I was of the opinion and had a belief system that there is a space in which you can have multiple loves at one time. Okay? That's polyamory. Let me run that back. Polyamory is the thought that you can have multiple loves at the same time. And here's where it makes it a bit different from other things. And have the option for sex with other people. Now, the basis of the relationship is love. Okay? It's all based in love. It's all based in heartful relationships, not lust. That's the difference, right? We watch many people in our lives cheat. We watch many people in our lives. I mean, grandparents have had, grandpa has a family on this side of town, another family on this side of town, and we didn't call it anything but, oh, he was being a man, or that's just the way they did it back then, or as long as the bills were paid, we were fine, right? And so what has happened in this country is over the last 50 years or so, there has been a term developed to identify what it means to be able to love singularly, basing it up on love, where we have had a culture that has been based in polygamy, right? We know about all the men in the Bible that had multiple wives and, multiple children. How many kids did Father Abraham, right, have? But we don't see condemnation. And a lot of times with men, there isn't condemnation about having multiple loves in their life. And usually, we don't even talk about love when we talk about multiples in relationship. We tend to talk about sex. Sex over love, right? And you think, oh, you just want to have sex with a whole bunch of people. Well, if I wanted to do that, there are places for that. There are sex clubs all around the U.S. You don't really need to do anything outside of just show up, right? So it's not about being able to have sex with multiple people. It's primarily about being able to be in love with multiple people. How hard is that for us? Especially as women, right? And especially as black women. Black women tend to take on a village. We are the mothers of the village. We love everybody's kids, typically, right? It is not uncommon for us to spank another kid. Maybe not spank. I don't know if we're spanking other people's kids, but it is not uncommon for us to chastise other people's children because of the great love that we have for the parent, or the great love we have for those children. And that's a form of love, right? So if that is the case, why is it that conventional America, Western society, says that polyamory is a problem. Polygamy is a problem. Polygyny is a problem. Why is that? I think there is an opportunity for us to start to have real, true conversations with our children, with our friends, our families in general, about the availability of options to explore love versus cheating. What's the difference? So polyamory is umbrellaed under what is called ethical non-monogamy. All right? And what that means is it is simply up to me and my partner to be open about what it is that we explore, to be honest about what it is that we explore, and for them to be open and honest with the people that they are in partnership or in community with romantically. How is that different from just cheating? Well, you have an understanding. There is a meeting of the minds. We both know what's going on in this situation. We're both tuned in on what's going on in this situation, right? So no one person is being overlooked or treated a certain way, because we have a great understanding of what has been agreed upon between us. That's polyamory. Loving relationships. And I have seen families cultivate wonderful relationships where there are multiple partners included. There could be 2 moms or 2 dads or whatever and another person, 3 people in the group, 4 people in it. People go on to develop these wonderful loving situations for children to be able to grow up and have enough support, a village, so to speak, right? The only difference that we see in that respect is these kids or these families grow in a situation where, versus there having to be another babysitter that comes in, or nanny of some sort, they have another person who is a solid person in their life, who is trusted, who they feel safe with, and they have the ability to be guided by this person as well. Now, as polyamorous people go on, there are many different styles of polyamory, and a lot of people say I poly different. Not me specifically, but that is the terminology. Oh, everyone polys a little different, right? Some people are more communicative about it. Some people talk to their parents about it. Some people talk to their families about it, and they kind of let them know what's going on. And some people don't do that. Some people are secretive about it, and some people are not secretive about it. But I must let you know that it is happening. And you would even be more shocked to know how many people in the church are polyamorous. You're a musician, maybe polyamorous. You're a pastor. I know some pastors that are polyamorous. You're a treasurer, the deacon, the usher, the mother on the front pew. People have come up with multiple ways by which to continue relationships to ensure that they can continue to function. They can continue to have a marriage. They can continue to have a solid home, because not everybody's relationship works out the same way, in case you guys are unaware. Not everybody is intended, or not everyone is even interested in being with one person. But if there is the option of, hey, if at some point you decide or you meet someone and you've fallen in love with that person and you would like to explore more, let's have a conversation about that. Let's not consider divorce. And why is cheating the great sin that people typically allow to ruin their marriage or to end the marriage? What does it say about us as society that someone choosing to fulfill their flesh, when we've all chosen to fulfill our flesh in different ways, right? Whether that is overindulging in whatever chocolate you have, or overeating at the buffet after church, or whatever you're doing, right? Why is it that we have such tight reins around relationship styles? And is it fair? Especially when we're seeing fewer young people get married. We're seeing fewer people be able to own homes. A lot of people have chosen polyamory as a way of group economics. You get 3 or 4 people in, maybe you can afford to buy a big home and we can all live happily thereafter, right? And it works for some people. It's not going to work for everybody. But I think the basis of this conversation is about wholeness and fulfillment, and why we are continuously operating in a scarcity mindset, right? Once we have an understanding, the scripture tells us in all of our getting to get an understanding. So once we have a clear understanding of what we're doing, then we're off to the races, right? But a lot of times, in place of saying to our spouse, hey, I don't like sleeping with you no more, or hey, you get on my nerve and today I just need a break, we just choose to go cheat. What if there was another option? We talk often about like your Hollywood crush or celebrity crush or whatever. And I think even that notion, I can assure you, is a form of cheating, right? We just don't look at it that way. We just look, oh yeah, that's not cheating. That's just me thinking, nah. That is you putting a thought of iniquity outside of your marriage, especially if you're a monogamous couple. But that is putting a thought into your mind and allowing that to fester. That is a form of cheating, whether we want to admit that or not. And as we dial back and look at what marriage was truly intended for, or we come forward to, in most modern times, we're not exchanging dowries anymore, right? Like, Michael certainly did not give my daddy a goat when he married me. There was no penance paid for my hand in marriage. And I can tell you, my daddy paid the ultimate price of giving me away. But other than that, there was nothing else that was exchanged. So outside, and I'm someone that we actually had a committed relationship and lived together prior to marriage. Okay. So for me, going down the aisle was an opportunity to clean up the issue for my father. And perhaps you haven't seen the video about fallible idols. I would recommend you take a look at that one as well, to just see the dynamic that I had with my own father and kind of how I looked at that relationship. That's on Patreon as well. But for me, it was not something that I absolutely needed to have. In fact, I did not want to be married. This may shock you all. I love being married. I'm a wife. I'm not a girlfriend. I'm a wife. I like commitment. I like stability. I like partnership. And Mike and I had already established a level of partnership prior to being married. We were already focused on goals. We were already knocking out goals prior to us being married. We were already dreaming big. Okay. The marriage piece that came, the paperwork that came with that, certainly complicated things, as it does for everyone. I mean, we can all sit here and lie. Go ahead. Marriage changes the game once you get married. Okay? Even if there is a small tweak, there is a tweak. Guaranteed. I don't know. I won't put my impression up on anyone, but I can say that for me, there was a change. And it was less a positive change and more about property. You're mine now. Some of you may be okay with being property for someone. That has never rang true for me. I like to say that I belong to myself, and it's probably the Capricorn in me. It's probably the Michael Paxton in me. It's probably the Dottie in me. But I've always kind of charted my own path, right? Now, certainly, I'm sure my parents didn't imagine that I would be as far left of center that I am, but it is who I am. It is who I am, and I'm true to it. But I do wish that someone would have had a conversation with me about waiting. The whole better to marry than to burn sermon that we've all been given. Just seems like if you getting married just to have sex, there's a way for you to have sex and you don't have to get married. And if you're getting married for the purposes of sex, primarily you are outside of the covenant of what a holy marriage, a biblical marriage would be, right? And I'm not saying my way is the right way. I'm not saying any way is the right way. I'm saying, what information are we giving? Have we updated the script around marriage? Are we expecting that in 2024, with all of the temptation available, there's Instagram, there's Twitter, there's Facebook, all of the groups that are on these socials, are we expecting that our husbands, our wives are not going to stumble into some level of falter and potentially cheat, even if it's in the mind, even if it's in the heart? You may never get physical, but even the thought is being sinful, if you look at it like that. In recent times, I have decided that monogamy was a better route for me. I believe that it is more in line with who I am at 38. Oh, I'm 39. At 39, I believe it is more on target with what God has asked me to be at 39. And I believe it is on track with who I want to move forward and be in my life. I think that many of you have speculated, and there have been many whispers about what is she doing and who is she. Allow me to let you know, I have lived a full life already, and I'm just getting started. I'm not ashamed to say that I was polyamorous. Listen, it was probably until I became polyamorous that I began to learn about who I was as a lover, who I was as a partner. I didn't realize I was this spoiled. I didn't realize most people don't want to hear me whine. Most people aren't willing to get up at any time at night and make me whatever I want. That's not something that I had to learn the hard way. Right? But in that learning, oh, did I open up a wealth of knowledge into who Brandy was. I got to learn me. I got to learn me through watching other people's bad behavior. I got to learn me through watching other people's good behavior. I grew, I learned, I developed. I got the best training I probably could have gotten in how to be a better wife. I don't recommend it to everybody. Most of you aren't equipped. It requires a great amount of honesty and a significant amount of discipline, and it cannot be about the flesh. It cannot be about just having sex. It is not the path for most people. Most people will never be honest. Most people will never tell you the truth. Most people in a marriage would never say, yo, the sex is whack. We need to step it up. Or most people wouldn't say, yo, you have thrown my hip out 3 times this week and I'm tired. I'm just someone who is honest about my path and the path that I've been on and the path that I had an opportunity to learn from. It also was the apex of healing for me through therapy, actually. And shout out to my former therapist, Judge Judy is what I called her, because she was so hard. So tough with me. But as I was on that path, there were many conversations that we got an opportunity to discuss as it related to the sexual abuse that I had experienced. I didn't really know I was broken sexually. I didn't know I was as broken in ways in which I had no clue, y'all. I just didn't. I got married young. I had never really truly been in healthy relationships or relationships of significance prior to being married. But during that process, I got to dig through my own wounds. I got to sweep the catacombs of my pain and abuse and sorrow. There were things that I didn't know that were not okay that I had to learn. There were feelings I didn't know that I should feel until I went through that process, until I talked to my therapist about the things in which I was experiencing, and some of the things were like, Brandy, that's not normal. You shouldn't, or that's not necessarily a healthy dynamic, or what would make you choose a person that way, or this person is exhibiting XYZ signs, right? It was my path. I'm not saying it's the way for you, but for me, going through that time and therapy at the same time, and discovering who I was, and taking copious notes, hours and hours of writing to flush out and digest my own thoughts. It took me some time. It took me a lot of time. But ultimately, throughout this process, it has allowed me to heal. I'm not going to say that polyamory was the way that I healed, but it definitely was one of the tools that helped me move into a space of sexual healing without Marvin Gaye. It was one of the things that allowed me to see that some of the things that I had experienced, real life. This is true. And then I'll go, because we're at almost 37 minutes. But it was only then that I started to remember that I had been sexually violated as many times as I had been. Because you think, oh, this is normal. Or sometimes when you have so much trauma, and I know I'm in the right neighborhood. Sometimes when you have so much trauma, you start to push that down, and you start to dissociate, and you start to be less detached, okay, in a way in which to hold yourself together. This is not something I created. This is a normal process that happens a lot of times with rape victims and victims of sexual abuse. I didn't really realize that I had cut my emotions off so poorly, so sincerely, so drastically. But as a way to protect myself, it is what I did. And through therapy and through prayer and through polyamory and meeting people, and not even just being in those relationships, but in that community, in a community that says we are all trying to figure this out. I met people who really led me on paths of self-discovery, who introduced me to books to read, who introduced me to podcasts and movies and all of these different things that really opened my eyes. I got more sexual education about brokenness, which is what I needed, that I had ever had before. There was nothing anyone at school could have taught me. The church could have never taught me, because the church only tells you don't have sex, right? Abstain. I don't even know if, I'm not going to pretend to know what is being taught there nowadays, but I know growing up, abortion wasn't even a conversation. I don't ever remember my daddy talking about abortion. Maybe that happened. I don't know. Maybe. There are so many reasons that people take the path that they do. And I want you guys to understand that not every path is yours. And not every path is bad. Some things just are. Some things just are. I have also met more married men who were unfaithful and dishonest about what they were doing. Now remember, polyamory is ethical non-monogamy, which means we have to talk about this. We have to be clear. We have to have an understanding. Your partner needs to know what's happening, right? But short of there being, I got a little piece here, short of there being a permission slip for what you're going to do, there's no way to know. There's just too many variables in, hey, I've given this person my heart. I fell in love with this person. They live wherever, and they haven't been honest with me. It's a lot of heartbreak. Lots of heartbreak going down that road. But I am thankful for having learned the lessons I learned. I'm thankful for the people I met. I'm thankful for the experiences I got. I'm thankful for the learning. So I want to leave you guys with a writing prompt. The educator in me won't allow me to just spill my tea and not have you consider something. Tonight before bed, write out, what is it that you seek in a relationship? What is important to you? If you're currently married, one side, what do you need in a relationship? What's important to you? The other side, are you receiving those things? Have those conversations with your partners. If you are someone considering marriage, think that through. Think through your boundaries. Not this BS about he got to be 6 feet this and he got to have this much money and all that other crazy stuff. Leave them doggone list somewhere. Think seriously. Get in here. What do you need? What do you need from your partner? Because if they're not that today, it's a great chance that they're not going to evolve into that. You see? So be honest with yourselves, because being honest with us is being honest with God. Right? Consider that. Now, as I move forward on my journey of monogamy, I'm taking valuable lessons. I'm taking fruit. I'm taking great conversations of how to be me, how to be a parent, how to be a wife, how to be a Black woman, how to be a scholar, how to be all of those things at once. I've learned that. And I hope that whatever journey you guys choose, you're learning that too. Remember, if at any point you stop learning, you stop evolving, you stop developing, you're dead. If your situation, your marriage, your relationship, whatever, hasn't evolved, hasn't created new fire, if it's just kind of gotten stale, it's time to have a conversation, y'all. A lot of times those conversations and a lot of time the reasons for these things is once again, it's inside. It comes from somewhere. It all starts somewhere. Anyway, I appreciate you for listening, and I hope that in your own effort for self-love, that you get clear about what it is that you need individually, so that you can be more clear about what it is you need in a relationship. All right? Love y'all.